I want to welcome all of you to the November meeting of the Dormitory Authority. It's good to have you here. It's a new day in many respects. As Stephen Colbert said last night or early this morning, the sun would likely rise this morning, and it did. We've been through a very arduous process. That process is now over, and we move on. Enough said. There are a lot of new people in the room today, and some of you, I think I've met everybody, but Tracy, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank
Likewise.
you for joining us. Now, are you going to be here with us?
Charlie and I are going to
You're going to back and forth?
go back and
Okay.
forth. Yes,
All right.
and
Well,
I
thank you very
try
much.
to be here as much as I can.
Thank you. Thank you. I met just a minute ago Michelle Hutchinson, who is here with the firm of Brown Hutchinson. Thank you for being here with us. All right, good to have you. And hello to everybody else who's here. Let's get at it, or have at it. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our meeting of 5 October. You all had a chance to go over them. Are there any corrections? Any proposed changes? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes? Thank you, John. Johnson, is there a second? Jerry, thank you so much. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The minutes are approved unanimously. We're going now to the adoption of financing documents and the president.
Good morning, and thank you. Behind tab 2 is the Albany Public Library with Steve Kozer presenting, along with co-bond counsel Hal Patrick and Kevin Bezio from Harris Beach, and Michelle Hutchinson from Brown Hutchinson.
Good morning. I just have a brief update on the Albany Public Library refunding transaction from what we presented last month. As you notice under the credit summary update under recent information, we mentioned that the school district was expected to authorize the execution of the tax pledge and collection agreement on November 3rd, and I'm pleased to report that that did occur. And also, just last night, Moody's issued its rating. We had an expected rating of A1, and they were actually received a rating of AA1, which is 3 notches above the A1 rating. So, very positive news.
That's great news, Steve.
And that concludes my update.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Chairman, board members. I'm Hal Patrick from Harris Beach, co-bond counsel for the Albany Public Library transaction. With me is Michelle Hutchinson from Brown and Hutchinson, who is co-bond counsel as well. I'll begin and turn it over to Michelle for some of the presentation. Proposed for your consideration today, the Albany Public Library Revenue Bond Resolution, which is the general resolution, together with a series resolution authorizing the issuance of Albany Public Library Revenue Bonds, Series 2016, in the amount of $26 million. The Albany Public Library is a school district library of chartered by the Board of Regents, and it serves the residents of the City School District of Albany. The library, as libraries that you've seen before, are funded primarily by tax revenues levied by the school district on behalf of the library, and that's true of the Albany Public Library. The Series 2016 bonds are being issued as fixed rate bonds. There's no enhancement. You've heard about the rating, which is certainly good for the library. And the purpose of the financing is to advance refund Series 2007 bonds issued by the authority for the library, and also to pay costs of issuance. The tax levy was authorized by referendum of the voters in the school district in 2007, and is sufficient to repay the Series 2016 bonds. There is also a loan agreement you're being asked to approve. Under the loan agreement, the Albany Public Library will make payments to the trustee to pay for debt service, and the loan agreement and the obligations under it are secured by pledged revenues, which include those library taxes that I just described. There's also a collection agreement among the authority the school district, the authority school district, the library, and the trustee that provides for the collection of the library tax and payment of the library tax to the trustee. You'll also be asked to authorize a bond purchase agreement with Piper Jaffray and a continuing disclosure agreement among the institution, the authority, and DAC. I'm asking the board to approve and authorize the bonds and approve these documents being executed. And I'm going to ask Michelle to give a description of the general resolution.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me way down, and my apologies for my hoarseness of my voice. Can you hear me down there? Okay, great. Thank you. The general resolution is a new resolution and is the agreement between the authority and bondholders and contains the basic terms of the agreement. Bonds may be issued under the general resolution for usual purposes, including to finance or refinance the cost of projects, to pay the costs associated with the issuance of a series of bonds, to fund a reserve fund, and to fund or refund bonds. The Series 26 bonds will be special obligations of the authority, payable solely out of the revenues, which consist of payments made by the institution under the loan agreement. Payment of the 2016 bonds is secured by the pledge and assignment of the revenues and monies and investments held under the resolution and by the security interest and pledged revenues granted by the loan agreement. No debt service reserve fund is expected to be established for the Series 2016 bonds. The Series 2016 resolution contains the usual delegation of powers in a series resolution. It also contains the usual delegations to officers of the authority contained in a typical series resolution. Herein, the resolution delegates to various officers of the authority the power, among others, to establish the aggregate principal amount of the Series 2016 bonds not to exceed $26 million. Excuse me. The Series 2016 resolution also authorizes various officers of the authority to execute a loan agreement between the institution and the authority, execute a bond purchase agreement, prepare and deliver a preliminary official statement, and execute and deliver an official statement, execute an agreement to provide continuing disclosure among the institution, the trustee, digital assurance certification, and the authority to permit the underwriter to comply with Rule 15C212. Also, to execute the collection agreement between the institution, the school district, trustee, and authority for the payment of library tax proceeds received by the trustee to pay for debt service on the 2016 bonds. No credit enhancement is expected for these bonds.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions about this proposed financing? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve it? Beryl, thank you. Is there a second? John, thank you very much. Second. All in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye. Are they opposed? Then the matter passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hal, thank you.
Pleasure.
Behind tab 3 is Bright Point Health, with Matthew Bergen presenting, along with co-bond counsel Christopher Rietzel and Jeffrey Pohl from Squire Patton Boggs, and Douglas Seaton of Seaton and Associates.
We are very pleased today to have a familiar face in this room. At least I'm very pleased. Let me say that he was normally on one side of this table or the other, generally this side. He's in a position today that he's not been in before, with this board anyway, as one of the presenters. Jeff, it's good to have you back.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Pohl. Behind me is Chris Reichel from Squire Patton Boggs, Doug Seaton, our co-counsel. And before you for consideration is the adoption of the authority's Bright Point Health bond resolution, authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds in one or more series of bonds for projects for Bright Point Health, and 2 series resolutions authorizing individually and in the aggregate the issuance of up to $12 million Bright Point Health Revenue Bond Series 2016. The Series 2016 bonds are proposed to be issued to finance cost of certain new money projects, refund certain bonds issued by the New York City Industrial Development Agency, and pay cost of issuance. You are being asked to adopt 2 Series 2016 resolutions. It is currently expected that both series of bonds will be tax exempt and will be privately placed with Bank United N.A. or Bridge Funding, a wholly owned subsidiary of the bank, and both of them are qualified institutional buyers. It is anticipated that one series will be issued at a variable rate for an initial period expected to be approximately 10 years. There will be a mandatory tender of such bonds at the end of the initial period, prior to which the institution must either refinance or negotiate a renewal with the private purchaser. It is anticipated that the other series will be issued at a variable rate of interest for a term that is expected to be approximately 7 years. Under the resolution, the authority is permitted to issue its bonds to finance or refinance eligible hospital projects, nursing home projects, or other projects qualified under the Act. The general resolution is a new resolution providing for the issuance from time to time of multiple series of bonds for the benefit of the institution, each series separately secured from each other unless there is otherwise provided for in the applicable series resolutions. The bonds are special obligations of the authority, payable solely out of the revenues, which consist of payments made by the institution under the loan agreement, and monies and investments held in the funds and accounts authorized by the general resolution. The institution expects to enter into swaps, interest rate swaps with respect to each series. The institution also expects to obtain a line of credit loan from the private purchaser. There will also be 2 series resolutions, as I mentioned. The series resolutions authorize various officers to make all of the determinations described in our board letter, as well as the execution of all documents, including any necessary creditor agreements, and to do all other things necessary to complete the transaction. In accordance with your guidelines, the series resolutions also contain restrictions on the ownership and transfer of the Series 2016 bonds to qualified institutional buyers. I'll let you do the loan again.
Well, before you start, Matt, is there anything that you want to tell?
I'm sorry, did I jump in?
No, that's okay. Just a brief update. When the resolution to proceed was presented, we had discussed that Brightpoint Health and Brightpoint Care may be co-borrowers, but it's been determined that Brightpoint Health will be the borrower and Brightpoint Care will be the guarantor.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we're lending under the MITFA statute,
Got it. The old MICVA statute.
the old MITFA statute.
That's right. Doug, please.
And before I talk about the loan agreement, I just wanted to say thank you to Dolores for facilitating me be able to present, because without her, I wouldn't have these glasses right now.
Don't worry, we got lots of them around the table.
The loan agreement obligates the institution to make payments in amounts and at times sufficient to pay the debt service and to provide for the payment of the purchase price of the 2016 bonds upon tender of the 2016 bonds by the applicable purchaser. The institution's obligation to make payments under the loan agreement will be a general obligation. As security for its obligations under the loan agreement, the institution will grant to the authority a security interest in its revenues, subject to any prior pledges. Our board letter noted that the pledge of revenues is limited to the maximum annual debt service, but we now anticipate that it will be a gross revenue pledge. The obligations of the institution of the loan agreement will also be secured by a mortgage granted to the authority on mortgaged property that is currently expected to include certain properties operated by the institution in the Bronx and Queens. It is currently expected that the mortgaged property will consist of property owned by the guarantor, who will then grant the mortgage. The property is to be improved with the proceeds of the 2016 bonds and leased by the institution and will not be mortgaged. The institution will enter into a bond purchase and continuing covenants agreement or similar agreement with the private purchaser, a default under which will constitute a default under the loan agreement. It is expected that the authority's rights under the loan agreement and the mortgage will be assigned to the trustee, who will exercise remedies at the direction of the private purchaser. There is expected to be an intercreditor agreement relating to the 2016 bonds, the swaps, and the line of credit that will govern the sharing of pledge revenues and the mortgage. Also, at the request of the private purchaser, Brightpoint Care, Inc., an affiliated entity of the institution, is expected to execute a guarantee agreement further securing the institution's obligations related to the 2016 bonds. Thank you.
Doug, thank you very much. Are there questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the transaction? Darrell, thank you. Second. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We are now going to move to the next item on the agenda, the management reports. The first of which will be the report of the President. Gerard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning again. I'd like to begin with the proposed 2017 DASNY Board and Committee meeting schedule. We're proposing 11 meetings, 5 in Albany and 6 in New York City. We have a tentative special board meeting date of August 9th. That's noted in the schedule. That will only be held if necessary. This schedule continues the practice of holding our board meeting dates closer to the beginning of the month to better align with PACB meetings. In addition, today, after you hear an update on our construction projects from Steve Kuro, you will hear a presentation from DASNY's Director of Upstate Construction, Tim McGrath, and our Director of Upstate Planning, Design and Quality Assurance, Sandy Degler. They will walk you through how DASNY executes the work we do on the SUNY campuses every summer. As we highlight to you, this is a very important initiative, very important project. We think it's important that you hear how this unfolds, how it evolves, and the success that we have. More importantly, I continue to focus, as well as the management team continues to focus on the importance of highlighting the work that takes shape all across DASNY, beyond just us. So we really want to continue to provide you with the breadth of insights and the significant accomplishments that exist in this organization. So that's one of the initiatives. Yes.
Everybody has had a chance to take a look at the proposed meeting schedule. Did any of you have any concerns about it? Are there problems with it based on things that you may have already planned in the next year? Yeah, we want to make sure that we can get a quorum when we need it.
Well, I'm unavailable on February 8th.
On February 8th?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Do
Does
you know
anybody else
when
know?
Martin Luther King Day is? I'm just curious.
I don't.
Would be
It's in
Monday.
January, but I.
But it would be
I'm
Monday.
just curious.
I think it's the 10th. I'll look for it right
Or
now.
the
for
9th,
you.
maybe.
But not the 11th.
No,
Okay. So you could
It's the 9th.
I guess.
I mean,
No,
just
16th.
So, oh, it's the week, all right.
Would, as you go through your own schedules, would you be kind enough to give me a ring just to let me know whether there are other meeting dates for which you're not going to be available, that you know already? Thank you. I'm sorry, George.
No problem. Thank you. In addition, I'm proud to say that on October the 5th and 6th, DASNY's participation in the 6th Annual New York State MWBE Forum was a resounding success. As many of you observed in person, since you did participate, it was standing room only at a special DASNY event held at the forum. We offered MWBE firms the opportunity to connect with design-build teams selected to compete for a contract award to build an approximately $18 million residence hall for SUNY Brockport. Very important project that we're working on. Meanwhile, DASNY staff members participated on key panels throughout the event. Our strong presence at this important statewide venue enhances our ability to build valuable connections amongst the MWBE community and majority-owned firms. Our success at the forum is just one piece in our ongoing effort finance and build inclusive communities across New York. In addition, on October the 14th, I delivered the keynote address to the New York chapter of the National Association of Minority Contractors. I explained our obligation to make sure the almost 1,000 projects in our construction pipeline, valued at about $6 billion, are delivered efficiently. It is an obligation to ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely, and it is an obligation to ensure the needs of DASNY's clients are supported in every endeavor. As I told the audience of approximately 400 people, the more DASNY does for its clients, the greater our ability to create new capacity for MWBE firms to grow and succeed. By fulfilling this mission, DASNY is better positioned to broaden opportunity across New York. This month, in the month of October, I also had the privilege of participating in 4 industry panels. On October 14th, I was part of a panel discussion, and Mr. Chair, you were present as well, at Siebert Cisneros Shank and Company, one of our co-senior underwriters. It's an investment bank and a financial services firm. We discussed the next generation of innovative financing strategies, and I had the opportunity to relay DASNY's rich history using creative financing techniques to address New York's capital needs, as well as our long track record and deep experience as an issuer of both state-supported and private client bonds. On October 17, I outlined to the National Association of Securities Professionals DASNY's surge into alternative delivery methods, including construction manager at risk and design build, to give clients the widest possible range of project management tools. I also highlighted DASNY's ability to provide hybrid financing that combines tax-exempt bonds together with taxable bonds to accommodate what we are beginning to see a lot of, the private use of a project. These options provide flexibility to our clients and help us meet their needs for increasingly complex strategic initiatives. On October 22nd, I was part of the Culture Shift Labs Silicon Alley Innovation Think Tank, discussing how diversity and inclusion are among the greatest accelerators of innovation and growth. And I served as a panelist for the Tri-State Industrial Real Estate Investor Forum Group on October the 26th. The discussion focused on the trend of government rethinking its core functions, as well as partnering with the private sector where possible. So looking at, all of our physical infrastructure and how do we partner with the private sector to extract value and continue to provide services. As it relates to finance, DASNY's uncommitted operating reserves totaled $60.9 million at the end of the month. These funds have explicit purposes and were established and designated by the DASNY board, passing specific resolutions, and cannot be used for general operating expenses. The reserve funds serve as an important tool for managing the risks associated with the DASNY financing and construction programs. Healthcare Reform Act reserves increased by $2.6 million due to receipts. In the DASNY operating budget, personnel expenses were slightly over budget, primarily due to healthcare costs, while non-personnel expenses were slightly under budget, primarily due to the timing of external legal services. Now, finance is also in the process of developing the proposed 2017-2018 operating budget. Information is currently being gathered from all DASNY departments and compiled by the Budget Department in anticipation of sending a draft budget package to the board on December 31st, as required by the Public Authorities Accountability Act. The board will also be asked to adopt the budget at the March meeting. As it relates to information services, we're launching a very big pilot project to test Microsoft Surface tablets in our offices and, most importantly, our field sites. The Surface Pro tablets will provide greater efficiency when working on interactive dashboards and applications and flexibility for users working in the field. In addition, DASNY has added a new tool in its expanding tool belt. It's called Power B1, Business Intelligence. It is a Microsoft tool that allows DASNY to present its data in a dashboard-style format. Dashboards provide an interactive web-based surface to view information. That information can be gathered from multiple sources and grouped together in one location. This provides our staff with more accurate visibility into business operations and can help with decision-making by having information at their fingertips. IF has also teamed up with our Human Resources Unit to implement Clear Company Online Recruitment. This is a very novel theme, I think, for a public institution. The service allows external candidates to create accounts, fill out the recruitment application, and submit a resume, cover letter, and background check consent, all online. Candidates can apply for multiple positions without re-entering the same information. This is a significant improvement to the candidate experience with DASNY. Now, as it relates to public finance and portfolio monitoring, in public finance, DASNY continues its work with the State Division of the Budget to issue bonds to fund the state's capital projects. In early October, we were in the market with a $1.1 billion personal income tax refunding transaction. This despite challenging conditions as the market was concerned about potential actions by the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan that could result in higher interest rates. We also priced and issued a $144 million Department of Health revenue refunding bonds in October. We had an MWBE firm, Loop Capital, lead that transaction. We priced this deal amidst a $5 billion calendar and on the heels of a very tough market with widening spreads. So on the whole, we've had a very active and robust pipeline of activity that's been done. And with that, I'll turn it over to Portia.
Thank you very much. Behind tab 6 are the standard public finance reports. In terms of bond pricings, in addition to the transactions which Gerard had mentioned, we also priced, as is in my written report, the Westchester County, Westchester Court Facilities bonds, as well as the school district bonds. Two transactions which are not in my written report because they just occurred, the prices just occurred, are the IAC transaction as well as a New School transaction. Just coming back to the board as an update on New School. New School did maintain their rating in the A category, so as a result, they did move forward without the mortgage. I think you'll recall the discussion that we had at the last meeting in connection with sort of the rating issue and the security calculation. Just as far as a brief market update is concerned, as Gerard had noted, the Fed left rates unchanged at the October meeting. They did state that the case for a rate hike was continuing to strengthen. The next Fed meeting is scheduled for December 14th. The Fed funds futures is basically indicating that the probability of a rate hike is above 75% at this point in time. Municipal supply, as we discussed at the last meeting, has been very strong. The supply has really been, just exceedingly high. It seems as though a lot of market participants, a lot of issuers are really looking to enter the market before the election. Last week, municipal supply was about $9.9 billion. That brings total volume to date to $388 billion, up 14% from last year. The calendar this week was $3.2 billion, or expected to be $3.2 billion, recognizing that it's a holiday-shortened week. Obviously, we had the election yesterday. There's Veterans Day on Friday, so as a result, I think folks were looking to. It's not surprising that the calendar is much smaller this week than it has been in weeks past. We've also talked over the last several board meetings that there have been continuous inflows into the muni market. There were over 52 straight weeks of inflows into the muni market. Municipal bond funds have seen outflows in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Muni yields have continued to increase since the last board meeting. They're basically up 16 and 18 basis points in the 10 and 30 year from the last board meeting in October. Also included just in the standard reports is the quarterly financial advisor update, as well as a few bond sale summary reports, which also include performance metrics. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Are there questions for Portia? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to go into executive session to discuss the financial and credit history of particular corporations? Thank you, Beryl. Jerry, thank you for the second. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously, and we're in executive session. Thank you, brother. Thank you. The record will reflect that we've just come out of an executive session during which no decisions were made, except, of course, to return to the public session. The next agenda item is actually yours to introduce, Mr. President.
So I want to continue in terms of construction. In our construction division, DASNY completely renovated Cortland to Grote Hall, marking the first major overhaul for SUNY's Cortland 4-story brick Georgian-style residential facility since it was built more than 65 years ago. The work, valued at about $7 million, ranged from new floors and energy-efficient lighting and heaters to bath, bed, laundry room upgrades. It exemplifies DASNY's commitment to providing quality living environments for SUNY students. There's a lot of need for that. October 26th, ribbon was cut at a DASNY project at the Concern for Independent Living in Ronkonkoma. This is an Office of Temporary and Disability Assistant project via the Homeless Housing Assistance Program, providing 59 units of housing for homeless veterans. Another very important project. DASNY monitors all aspects of the construction and provided reporting throughout the process. On November 3rd, the ribbon was cut at Bronx Community College, where campus quad landscaping makes up the final phase of a $102 million new library and classroom DASNY built for the college. It's phenomenal. I'm sure a number of you have seen this. The quad was completely reconstructed to improve pedestrian circulation. On November 4th, DASNY and the Office of Alcohol and Substance Abuse Services broke ground on a community center for women in Brentwood. DASNY is monitoring construction and design of a 25-bed, 5,000 square foot facility complete with a kitchen and a gym. One thing I'd like to highlight that I think is very important. You approved at our previous board meeting the capability construction manager build. You also recognize we have construction manager at risk, and we have the capability of doing design build for SUNY. One of the things that I'd like Mike Cusack to highlight, all right, what we have started in that process before we turn it over to Steve. One of the things that our construction division highlighted to us was that we needed a more robust contract process on this. And so we have initiated, across DASNY, reviewing all of our contracts to make our capability much more robust and begin to change our culture so that we can provide alternative delivery methods to our clients. So I'd just like for you to highlight at a very quick and high level
certainly
the work that we've done here.
Sure, the work effort to bring this tool online at DASNY is basically broken down into revised documents and training. And on the revised documentation side, we first went through with outside counsel, brought in a counsel with good experience in this area to help us revamp our RFP documentation, so that you make sure when you're going out for these procurements that you're asking for the product back in a correct way that the market can be responsive to. And I think that part is entirely complete. Second, we moved on to the design build contract itself, and it modernized it is the best way that I can explain it. Took into account all of the current thinking that's out there in the market, and our internal thinking of things from our internal checklist that we wanted to change in our own documentation. Again, worked with outside counsel to prepare a product that I think puts Steve in a very good position. And where we go next is rollout and training, and that's where the work effort is going to be focused.
And this was a very collaborative effort between legal, construction, and procurement. And again, we will be bringing in, all right, support to help us in terms of training. So I want to train all of our leaders in construction and legal to begin to start talking about this alternative delivery, so it becomes really a unique way of differentiating ourselves in the state. You know, rather than us talking broadly about getting this design build capability where, you know, you got maybe 2-3 projects for that. We have it in a SUNY portfolio, and if we have it, we're going to demonstrate success on the project that we're executing on, and then more importantly, we want to talk to our SUNY partners about this capability. And we're certainly using Construction Manager Bill for Gozers, and you saw how we use Construction Manager at Risk for the Advanced Science Research Center. And we had some challenges with that, and that's one of the reasons why we looked at our contract process. So we feel very good about that, and we're going to initiate a big training initiative across DASNY. And again, eliminating silos, making sure that we are all talking to one another way before a crisis occurs. So I think that's positive. With that, I will turn the floor over to Steve, who has an update on our other construction projects. And then Steve will be followed by Tim McGrath and Sandy Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Behind tab 7 are the 3 construction division reports. The first report, the construction projects report. On the cover are a few photos of the project that Gerard spoke about, the Grote Hall, the renovation project at SUNY Cortland. I'll pass around a series of other photos for you to have a look at. Overall project budget was $8.2 million. The scope included the complete renovation of all interior spaces, new heating, lighting, wall coverings, flooring, bathroom upgrades, a new elevator, and some miscellaneous site work. Our designer was King & King. The design started in December of 2010. It was shelved for a bit of time, reborn and finished in September of 2015. Construction started in December of 2015 and completed in August of this year, 2016. Our GC was Foz Construction. Some of the highlights of the project from a sustainability standpoint, a decrease in water usage through low flow fixtures. High efficiency lighting was added. Additional insulation was added in the attic spaces, new windows, and we retained as much of the existing building materials as possible throughout the renovation. We added some additional heavy structural work in the building's core to open up some of the spaces. It really changed the look and the feel of the finished space in the core area. I've got some photos of that. In addition, the original building did not have an elevator. We bid as an alternate an elevator package, which was accepted. We constructed it, and it is handicap accessible from the exterior of the building. The addition, there's some photos of it, blend very nicely in with the existing building. On page 3 of construction projects report, we've added 4 new projects this period. At the College of Staten Island, we have a new campus roadway reconstruction project valued at $6.9 million. At Hunter College, we're doing an elevator upgrade project valued at $5.4 million. John Jay College, we have a library renovation project valued at $6.8 million. And at SUNY Alfred, we're doing the first phase of a multiple phase residence hall renovation project at Mackenzie Hall. Phase 1 is valued at $14 million. Page 7, construction expenditures. Prior year through September 30, we expended $321 million. Current year, $301 million, for a delta of $20 million. And a few projects and programs to update you on. I'll start with NYCHA. On the security side, we continue to work on the security projects, which are currently at different stages of completion. 3 of the Phase 1 projects are substantially complete. In addition, we are beginning to move forward with the lighting projects under the security heading. We're going to be working through schematic design on those projects to prioritize scopes of work and estimate the costs for those scopes. On the appliances side, the purchase and installation of stoves and refrigerators is through our procurement process, and installations we anticipate will begin in late 2016 or early 2017. And on the non-security projects, NYCHA continues to vet those projects for us. We hope to begin the planning stages either later this month or early in December. Bernard Hudson, third TAO inspection is scheduled to take place tomorrow to review the final outstanding items discovered in the prior walkthrough. In addition, commissioning and punch list work continues. At the Court Officers Training Academy, the project continues to progress with a reported substantial completion date from our general contractor of April 2016. All major trades are working consistently on the project at this time. Manpower is in the 75 to 80 range. The next version of the schedule is anticipated to be November 11th. We've been in conversations with our customer both last week and this week to discuss the schedule, funding, occupancy, and work to be completed directly by the New York City courts managed contract. And lastly, at South Beach Psych Center, project piles and foundation work continues. We're through approximately 25% of the piles being driven on the project related to bid package 2. Bid package 3, the steel package, shop drawing submittals have started, and preliminary work related to bid package 5 has also started. That's the largest package on the project. It includes the MEP work as well as the fit out. That concludes my report. Any questions? Okay, with that, I'm going to introduce our Upstate Design and Construction Directors who will present to us the SUNY program this morning. First, Sandra Dagler. Sandy is a licensed architect who manages the design process for our upstate projects under the title Director of Planning, Design, and Quality Assurance. And Tim McGrath is our Director for Construction for the upstate programs and projects. He manages over all construction work performed north of the city, including the SUNY summer work that he'll tell us a little bit about this morning. So with that, I'll get the technology in place. I'll sneak off to the side.
Spaceballs.
Okay, you got it.
Ready?
We're ready.
Thank you, Steve. The State University of New York is the largest, most comprehensive public university system in the nation. And if you think back to when DASNY was first founded in 1944, our original mission was to build dormitories for state colleges. So I think it's fair to say that SUNY is DASNY's very first customer. So today I'll take you through an overview of DASNY's very first customer. Tim and I will be presenting together. We're going to tell you some information about SUNY, who they are, what they do, what their impact is. We'll also give you an overview of the SUNY capital plan, give you an idea of the size of the program. We'll talk about the process. How does a project become a project? Once we get a project, what is it that DASNY actually does to manage that project from beginning through to completion? We'll show you some examples of project types and costs. We'll talk about the delivery methods that we have available for SUNY, and there was some discussion of that a few minutes ago, so we'll elaborate on that. And then to finish, we'll show you what's in the pipeline, what some upcoming projects are, what the future looks like for SUNY. So as I said, SUNY is a comprehensive university system. It's made up of 64 institutions that are distributed fairly evenly across New York State. They're a diverse group of institutions. Some of them grant doctoral degrees and graduate degrees, and other facilities grant certificate programs and 2- and 4-year undergraduate degrees. Some of the notable degree programs in the system, we have 2 medical schools, one at Upstate Medical University in Syracuse, one at Downstate Medical University in Brooklyn. There's a School of Architecture at the University at Buffalo. There's a School of Engineering at SUNY Binghamton. At Potsdam, up in the Adirondacks, there's a very well-renowned music program, the Crane School of Music. And on the end of the community colleges and the technology colleges, there's some really interesting programs like the automotive repair program at SUNY Morrisville, or a golf course management program at Delhi. The 8 specialized colleges are of note also. We have things like the veterinary school, which is at Cornell University. That's actually a SUNY school. The ceramics college at Alfred, the School of Optometry in Manhattan. So a very diverse system offering a very diverse catalog of degrees and programs. Currently, DASNY has active projects at 51 of the 64 campuses. And these run the full gamut from full management projects, where we manage the project from the very beginning right through closeout, but also often for our community college customers, we have a more limited involvement with some financial oversight. So the program, the SUNY program, is diverse, our role is diverse. As I said, SUNY is the largest comprehensive public university system in the nation. It started out with 29 unaffiliated institutions that came together, and it's grown to the system that we know today. What you may not know is that the vast majority of New Yorkers live within 15 to 30 miles of a SUNY campus. And in many regions, SUNY is the largest employer. As you might expect, SUNY draws a lot of students from New York State, but it also draws students from the entire country, from every state in the nation, and also from many countries in the world. Also, as you might guess, many high school students in New York State choose SUNY. But if you look at their enrollment of full-time students, part-time students, and students enrolled in online programs, you have over 500,000 students at any time. And this last statistic is something that I find to be very interesting, is that there are over 3 million living SUNY alumni in the world. So think about the impact that those former students are having on their communities. A few other facts: over 7,000 degree programs. In 1415, SUNY granted nearly 100,000 academic degrees. The Research Foundation in 1415 generated almost $900 million in activities. So think about the economic impact of that on the communities where those activities take place. The Residence Hall program that we're talking about today has over 75,000 beds, over 20 million square feet, and 440 buildings. And as you'll see in a few minutes when Tim does his presentation, We are adding to those numbers every year. This is the most recent information we have for the SUNY capital plan. You can see a little over $1 billion to be expended in a 6-year period. Now, not every single one of those dollars come to DASNY, but a lot of them do, and we're always looking to grow participation in that program. And coming up in 2018-19, looks like we're going to have a good year with a little over $250 million in projects. And before I go on, if anybody has a question, just interrupt me and take the question.
Where does the State University Construction Fund come into this?
Yeah.
The State University Construction Fund is involved in the management of projects for academic and administrative buildings. DASNY covers the residence hall program, and often we work hand in hand with them because some projects actually have a little bit of both. So I'd just like to walk you briefly through the process. When I say that we manage projects in the SUNY program, what does that actually mean? What activities do we actually undertake? So it starts out because a campus has a need and they request a project. We have a template form that we use for project requests. That form covers the intent of the project, the justification for it, what the scope of the project is, the budget, the schedule, what buildings are involved, all the pertinent information that we need to know. That form is signed off by the campus, it's signed off by SUNY Central Administration, and it's signed off by DASNY. Steve Currow signs those. That form is emailed to a special email box that we set up, and that's how we know we have a new project. Often we know ahead of time because we have relationships with all the campuses, but that's the formal point at which a project becomes a new project. So we set up a project and we fund it. Now the form indicates the funding source for the project, and generally on the SUNY program there's 2 general sources of funding. There's bonds that we sell, and there's also something that we call campus cash. Now usually this cash comes from the residence hall income program, and it's money set aside for renovation and repair of facilities. But it could be cash from other campus sources. Doesn't really make any difference. So at this time we also assign a design phase manager and a construction phase manager. The design phase managers are architects and engineers who are expert in certain technical fields. And the construction managers are folks that have tremendous amounts of construction management experience. So we assign our own internal staff, and then we hire a design professional to design the project. For the vast majority of the projects we do for SUNY, those design professionals are engaged from our architectural and engineering term contracts. Those are $0 contracts, and when we have a work assignment, we issue it to them. For larger projects, we may do a formal RFP process, request for proposal, and engage an architect specifically for that project. And that would normally be larger capital projects such as a new dorm or a new parking garage or something like that. And we manage that process. We are actively involved in that process. We go to design meetings, we receive document submissions, and we review those submissions. We make sure that they comply with the building code, and we make sure that they comply with quality standards that the campus has advised us are necessary. And we also make sure that the scope of the project is within the budget and that the schedule is being maintained. So it's a very active process to manage. During the design phase, we also start talking to the campus about construction procurement. And when Tim speaks in a few minutes, he's going to give you the range of construction procurement methods that are available. But we try to tie the right method to the project. And there are reasons why one delivery method might be better than another. So we complete the design process. Everybody is satisfied that the design is what's needed to meet the original need that the campus had. And then depending on the delivery process, we either put the project out for public bidding, and then give it to a list of contractors, an invited list to bid, or we might have a process where we get a proposal from a contractor. So we get a price. This is the time when we find out whether our consultant's estimate of the cost, how close it is to the real price. We award a contract, and then we begin the management process all over again with the construction phase. And we have just as active a role in construction as we do in design. Often for SUNY, we hold the contract, we make payments, we make sure that the project is being constructed in accordance with the design documents. Often there are code-required testing, testing of steel, testing of concrete. We make sure that that testing happens and that the results are within the range they need to be. We make site visits. We make sure that everything is going according to the plan that was established in the design. And we pay contractors. We also issue construction permits, and we perform activities related to that. We have a code compliance group who comes out and looks at projects on a regular basis, and we bring in our architects and engineers when there are specific technical issues that arise. When the project is complete and we're ready for occupancy, there's a whole series of other activities. Construction is a really messy, dirty process. So before a building can be occupied, it has to be cleaned, we have to verify that the air quality is acceptable, and we may have to coordinate furniture delivery and other activities. Equipment deliveries. We close out the contracts, make all the final payments, and then in the first year of a project, most of our contracts require the contractor to provide a 1-year warranty on their work. So in that first year, if something goes wrong, if there are rooms that are cold or a window is leaking or drafty, we have the ability to bring the contractor back and have them fix the problem. And DASNY field staff is often at the forefront of that effort. So at this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Tim, who's going to show you some project examples, some of the types of projects, the delivery methods, and show you some great pictures.
Okay, thank you, Sandy, and thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to present this morning. As Sandy said, I'm going to tell you what we do, how we do it, what it costs, and how long it takes, basically, in the SUNY program. So starting out, of course, we do new residence halls. We also do major renovation of existing residence halls. And we have our summer projects, which are minor renovations of existing residence halls. We do parking garages, which some of you may or may not know. And we also do dining facilities. So that's what we do and how we do it. These are the various product delivery methods that we use in the SUNY program. Starting out with the standard public bid, design bid build process. We use that occasionally. We're using bid by invitation very often these days, which is basically it's design bid build with an invited bid list. We go out and we pre-qualify contractors, have them submit their qualifications, their vendor responsibility questionnaire, and make sure they have the wherewithal to undertake a given project. And then we put them on an invited bid list. And then when the documents are ready, we issue the documents to them. And then it's basically a low bid situation. Whoever the low bidder is, we've already pre-qualified them and they would be awarded the contract. Many of our new dorms, we've done see them at risk. We are just starting the procurement phase for a design build project at Brockport. It's the first design build we've done in many years, so we're really excited about that and looking forward to it. And for our smaller work, sometimes we'll use our job order contracting process for projects less than $350,000. And we also have a project or a method that we use for even smaller projects, less than 80,000, called GC minor maintenance. And this process was born out of the OPWDD program, where we're doing a lot of renovations on group homes throughout the state. And we needed a method to undertake these smaller projects. So it's basically, we have a series of contractors under term contract for a few years, and we issue them documents, and they go out and solicit bids from 3 different firms, and then pick the low bidder amongst them, and then they manage all the work. So it's a very good method to use for these smaller projects. So those are the project delivery methods. The photo you see here is a new residence hall we completed at New Paltz back in 2015, Ridgeview Hall, $31.5 million project. We achieved LEED Gold on it, and this one was bid by invitation. So within the new residence hall category, these are the different building floor plans that we built. There's suites, apartments, and townhouses. And statistically, over the past 12 years, we've done 24 projects comprised of 73 buildings, because there's multiple buildings in the townhouse complexes at 18 different campuses, 8,686 beds at a project cost of $859 million. So a lot of work's been accomplished in the last 12 years. I'm going to show you some examples of the different types of floor plans. This is Binghamton University East Campus housing. This is the largest residence hall project ever undertaken by DASNY. It was 3,000 beds, completed back in 2013, $380 million. It achieved LEED Gold, and we did this CM at risk. Another suite style dorm, Cortland Dragon Hall, named after their mascot, Dragon. The name Dragon Hall. Significant about this project, it's the first LEED Platinum dorm achieved by DASNY in the SUNY system. Apartment style, we built this apartment style dorm for residence hall for SUNY Albany, finished back in 2012. 500 beds, LEED Gold. This was bid by invitation. Of some significance from a LEED standpoint, underneath this parking lot is a geothermal field. So the HVAC system for this building, the energy is through geothermal. This connector of the 2 wings, this lobby connector, has a green roof on it. So this had very energy efficient building.
How is the geothermal working?
It's working actually. I haven't seen their actual numbers on it, but the campus is very pleased with the performance and the savings. Some townhouses that we've done over the years. We've done Alfred, Brockport, Fredonia, and Potsdam. This is a shot of SUNY Oswego townhouse complex completed back in 2010. $47 million project. There's 14 residence buildings and a commons building and a mechanical building. Beautiful complex on the Oswego campus. Okay, so the next category of projects we do are the major renovations. And over the past 12 years, here's the numbers: 29 projects at 11 campuses, 6,327 beds at a cost of $315 million. And these major renovations are really it's a complete updating of these older residence halls. So basically at the end of the project, they have functionally a new residence hall. And a lot of the campuses are going this route. because it's more cost effective, it's less expensive to renovate the older buildings than to build new, and I'll show you those numbers in a few minutes. So this is a shot of project Steve was talking about a few minutes ago, SUNY Cortland Road Hall. That's a shot of the lounge. These major renovations typically include upgrading of the building envelopes, the exterior, new windows, new roofs, any kind of masonry repairs that are necessary. Usually always there's asbestos abatement, upgrading of the mechanical and electrical systems, always gut renovation of the bathrooms, and then new finishes throughout. And in some cases, we'll take a floor plan that might be suite style or just a standard double-loaded corridor and gut the entire floor and create a new floor plan, thereby allowing us to create different spaces like lounges, studies, kitchenettes, exercise rooms, and laundry facilities. Another photo of the Grote Hall, that's the entry lobby. This is the new added elevator to the building with this glass connector to the existing building.
When was that building initially constructed?
This was originally constructed back in the 50s. SUNY Oswego, up on the banks of Lake Ontario. This building is literally about 100 feet from the water. We have 4 dorms that back right up to the lake. This was a beautiful redo of, originally, this was a just plain vanilla, rectangular, nondescript, architecturally older building built back in the 60s. And the architect designed, I grabbed my water. That very attractive lobby with entrance there. One minute. Completely rejuvenated. It's got a totally new look. And this is one in a series of renovations that we're doing for Oswego. Similarly, at New Paltz, this is Lefevre Hall. This was a renovation that we completed back in August of 15. Noteworthy about this design, again, it was basically a rectangular box of a building with a flat roof, and architecturally, we added this gable roof, and it's a standing seam metal roof with the attractive eyebrow dormer up there. Some new exterior features for the entryway. And this is one of 4 dorms that we're doing similarly at New Paltz. New lobby space. So we have major renovation ongoing programs at all these campuses that year after year we're doing renovations for these campuses. Plattsburgh, very noteworthy. We're doing 10 residence halls up there. We're into we're about 2/3 of the way through the program. It's just one after another each year. So here's some cost and schedule information. And on the left side are the renovation costs. On the right side, the new construction cost and schedule information. And as you can see, the cost per bed for the renovations versus the new construction, and these are in today's dollars. And for renovation, the cost range is dictated by the extent of the work that we're doing, the extent of the renovation, as well as the geographic location. Because work's going to cost incrementally more in Westchester as compared to, say, Potsdam. There's going to be a difference in prices in those two areas. Same for the new construction. The new construction costs are also dictated by the floor plan. A standard suite style dorm is going to be less expensive than townhouses or apartments, mainly due to with townhouses you're going to have multiple buildings, bathrooms, kitchens, things of that nature, and the same with apartments. You're going to have more bathrooms, kitchens. That's what drives the cost up. So the least expensive new construction configuration would be a suite style dorm. Yes?
I imagine that in every project you have competing considerations in terms of cost, schedule, and quality of the ultimate the building at the end. And the different stakeholders have different interests. How do those get managed, and how are those decisions reached between doing it faster, or doing it cheaper, or doing it better?
Yeah, that occurs early on when they first come to us with the notion of a lot of campuses come to us with the question, should I renovate, should I build new? If I build new, what style should I build, and what's it going to cost me, how long is it going to take? So we go through that whole question and answer process with them, and in some cases we'll do a financial feasibility study for them, projecting with their enrollment projections what their needs are, what's the trend in that area where they are for floor plans, what other colleges are they competing against for students. So there's a lot of factors that play into the decision as to what they do and how much they spend.
But it's a decision made by the campus.
Yes.
And you advise on it.
Exactly.
If I could just add to that, it's an issue that comes up on almost every project, even the smaller projects that comes up. And it's an ongoing conversation. And as Tim said, you provide information to help them make the best decision for their campus. And sometimes hard decisions have to be made, but it's an issue on just about every project.
Do you redo the mechanicals when you do the renovations, or?
Yes. Yeah, typically we do.
So what's your square foot cost on this? Your bed cost like a renovation versus a new construction? What are you, like 500 a new construction? Or?
No, the new construction cost per square foot is going to be somewhere 320 to 350, and the renovation is going to be somewhere 250 to 280, somewhere in that range. So as far as timelines go, the renovation timelines are dictated by how long the campus can really have the building offline. In some cases, the renovations we're taking them offline for 1 semester. So we have about a 7-month construction schedule. In other cases, we're taking them off for a full academic year, where we would have about a 14-month schedule. New construction, the timeline there is dictated mainly by the delivery method that we use. Design build or CM at risk is going to be at the faster end of that range, and design bid build is going to be at the longer end of the range. So then another category of projects that we do are summer projects, also affectionately known as 90-day wonders, because we have 90 days to complete them while the students are away on summer break. And just quickly, this is our typical sequence of events for a summer project. Sandy and I will author a call letter that goes out to all the campuses this January, asking them to get any of their requests for summer of 2018 work to us by April 15th of 17. We will then manage the design between May and October of 17. We will bid the work. hopefully by January of 18, an award, giving the contractors sufficient time between January and May to get all their paperwork together, get materials ordered, and get everything lined up to hit the ground running by May 15th so that they can complete by August 15th. And these are some of the typical projects that we do over the summer. Bathroom renovations are probably the most common. We do those across the whole state. The photo that you see here, SUNY Albany, they have 4 22-story tower dorms on their campus. And over the course of 4 years, we did one building each summer. It was 2,200 windows that we replaced in 90 days. So it was a very aggressive undertaking. It took a lot of planning, focus, determination, and teamwork to get this done. But workers worked extended days and weekends, double shifts to get it done. And that's what it takes on a lot of these projects, given the short time frame. This is an overview of the typical number of projects that we have, and we average 29 at an average cost of about $29.6 million. These are the stats over the last 7 years that we've done in this summer rehab program. Next category of projects, we've done parking garages over the years. These are 2 that we completed at Upstate Medical University. The first one was the East Parking Garage, 1,450 spaces. It also had a pedestrian bridge to the hospital. And a couple years later, we did, in 2008, the West Parking Garage. And we had a bridge connector from the East Garage to the West Garage, and then the connector to the hospital, creating an enclosed walkway system for users of the garages all the way from the parking into the hospital. Both of these were done CM at risk. And then lastly, the dining facilities that we've done over the years. I'll just show you some examples. This is Binghamton Mountain View College. This was part of a complex where we did, you can see one of the residence halls in the background. This was 4 residence halls and the dining facility, completed back in 2005. Again at Binghamton, East Campus Housing Project, where we had the 8 residence halls. This was the Collegiate Center / dining facility that went along with that complex. Completed in 2011, CM at risk. University of Buffalo, the Red Jacket Dining Hall, completed in 2012. Again, another CM at risk. And just to wrap up, this is what we have on the books right now for capital projects. Brockport is the design build dorm that I mentioned earlier. We're also working with purchase on a new residence hall. And the rest of these are the major renovations that we have in various stages of design and construction that are ongoing at this point.
Did the CM at risk process work out okay? Did you have
It's
any claims
worked out very well upstate. Yeah, we've done several projects in the recent past, and we've had good success with it upstate. Yes. So that's, now you know everything I do about the dorm program.
I doubt that.
Any questions?
That's a good one. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It's impressive. And I should say, given the time overruns in construction, I'm really impressed that these can all be done on a strict academic schedule. But one question, the different delivery methods, could you explain just briefly the relative benefits of whether it's CM at risk or?
Sure. Do we have the handout? We actually have a handout that I think Paul Koopman may have issued at a recent meeting. So we have copies of that. But just generally speaking, design build is going to, the benefits there are cost certainty early on and schedule, really. It's the fastest method of achieving a project, mainly because the designer and the builder are one team, and construction can start before design is totally complete. So they can do what we refer to as early bid packages. Say start the site work and foundation work before the whole design is done, so that they're working design and construction in parallel with one another. So as the design is getting complete, they're bidding the rest of the work. So on a new dorm, for instance, that's where I showed the schedule where we can get those done between 28 and 36 months. The 28-month schedule would pertain to a design build project, whereas 36 months would pertain to design bid build or bid by invitation, because in that process, it's very linear. We have to finish the design, then go through a 3-month bid and award process, and then start construction. Whereas with design build or CM at risk, it's more parallel, where you can start construction before design is complete.
And if I could just add one thing, the other benefit to design, build, and CM at risk is that you have the input of the contractor during the design phase. So the contractor can make suggestions to build the building more economically or to build it quicker using one system versus another. So they bring that whole, contractor's mindset to the design process, which can be very beneficial.
So that method is faster, but design, bid, build takes longer, but is more cost effective, or what's the advantage?
I think it depends on the bid market and the region that you're in. Yeah, through a competitive bid process, you may be able to get it less expensive for design, bid, build. CM at risk, you are going to pay.
You're covered by WICS there, though, right?
There's no WICS law in the SUNY program.
Oh, okay.
No. It doesn't apply to the SUNY program, I should say. CM at risk, you are going to pay somewhere in the range of maybe a 2 to 4% premium to have the CM at risk. And the reason for that is paying for the CM to be during the design phase. So they have a design phase fee where you wouldn't have that in design, bid, build. And also, you're paying for the CM to have a complete management staff during construction, whereas a standard general contractor would probably staff the project with less people. So there's a bit of an incremental premium to have a CM at risk during design and construction. But there are other benefits to having that CM. Sandy mentioned, having the builder involved during design brings a lot of experience and value to the design process. And during construction, in a CM at risk, they have the ability to pre-qualify their subcontractors before they put packages out to bid, which is very critical. Because we find in the design, bid, build world, failure on a project in a lot of cases has to do with either a subcontractor or a sub to a sub. So by having the ability to pre-qualify those subcontractors, it mitigates some of those problems.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there other questions?
And the CM, he's bonded, he has to provide his performance bond and payment bonds just like the GC.
Yes, they do.
No.
Yeah. As with the design build firm as well.
Other questions?
Thank you, by the way, it's very informative.
Tim, Sandy, thank you both very much for a very comprehensive presentation.
Thank you.
Very timely for us. We're getting close to the end here.
Yeah, we are.
So, well, I'm going to ask Kim whether or not she wants to add anything to the presentation that appears in the book.
Thank you, I don't have anything to add.
And are there any questions for Kim on the material that's in the book behind tab 5? All right. And then finally, Mike, did you have anything else?
No, I'll just, as a courtesy, introduce two new members to the legal department who are sitting here in the audience today. Tara Miner, who joined us over the summer.
Hi, everyone.
She comes from a construction law and district attorney's office background, helps us with internal affairs and construction law matters down here in New York City. And we have Brendan Wolf, who's more than 10 years experience, started with us last week or the week before.
Almost 3 weeks ago.
Almost 3 weeks ago. I'm losing track. And we'll be doing construction as well. Both are training under Morrow, Fran, and Kay, and contributing right off the bat. So,
well, welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here today, too.
They're in the New York office or Albany?
Tara's in New York and Brendan's in Albany.
Are there any other matters for the board's consideration? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to adjourn? Thank you, Beryl. Is there a second? Thank you, John. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.